one of the things is that you see out there that there are lots of people doing great things and they are not ready either.
Exactly.
They are less ready than I am. So why work? I should be ready. That's what I thought. Just do it because I'm sure you are ready. So you don't need all the flashy light around it. You just need a simple course and just do it. What surprised me was the fact that people were interested in what I was creating. And I go, there's interest, really. I take pride in offering safe spaces where people don't feel judged and they can make mistakes and we learn from those mistakes.
This quote by James Joyce, the mistakes are the portals of discovery. You've only discovered so much about what you are capable of doing because you were making mistakes along the way.
This is something that we tell students all the time. Let's take your mistakes and improve from there. But sometimes as teachers and then as entrepreneurs, we find it difficult to follow our words, to do what we say. Of all the kids at school, I was the least that anyone would have expected to do this. And here I am doing that, promoting my services, talking to the world. Yeah. I'm quite proud of that.
This is the Teacher Talking Time podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of our Teacherpreneur series. I'm very excited to share with you our latest episode where we sit down with Mariela Mondaca. To those of you who don't know, Mariella is an English teacher. She's also a trainer and an entrepreneur, someone I've worked with closely, who's turned her 25 years of classroom experience into an inspiring online business. Through her programs, she connects English learners from all over the world using well-being topics that create meaningful conversations and genuine fluency. What I really like about Mariella's journey in the conversation that we had here today is that she really encapsulates what this whole series is all about. How teachers can reinvent their work, how they can build communities, and more importantly, how they can make an impact that goes far beyond the classroom. I hope you enjoy this episode and you're enjoying this series. And don't forget to please support our work by subscribing to our podcast. Mariella, I don't know if you remember this, but we actually met when I was working for a tech startup during the pandemic in a tech startup in Turkey. And I remember coming across your name and coming across your resume, and the CEO of that company told me, like, do you think this person would be a good person for us to work with? And I said, I don't know. The resume looks good. She seems to be very knowledgeable in the lexical approach and seems to be like a very good and devoted educator. And that's how we met. I think the best starting point for me would be what changed between then and now.
Yeah, first of all, I remember mentioning I'm not an expert in the lexical approach, but I'm interested. I'm into it. I remember that, clarifying that, and I'm still interested in it. Yeah, I'm still trying to apply it as much as possible. A lot has changed since then. But yeah, I've grown professionally, definitely. That working for that startup was a great experience. I guess we learned many things about, entrepreneurship also. And that's when things started to work in a way in my mind to believe that I could do something online. I could do more than what I was doing because I was already teaching the typical situation, a teacher teaching English online, one-on-one. So things started changing since then and haven't stopped changing since then, to be honest.
That's really good to hear. You've mentioned something about believing that you could do this. Could you pinpoint to us that specific moment when you realized that you wanted to build something of your own in education And when did you start believing that you could actually do this?
I'm not sure if I can pinpoint just a moment. I think it was a whole process, and it still is. So there were many times of self-doubt, of feeling overwhelmed, but then finding the way around it, around the problem, finding a different solution, thinking outside the box, they call it. Yeah, it's a constant process that still goes on. As I was getting ready to meet you today, I was also rewinding some things, and I thought how at the beginning I was stressing out about making the perfect, complete course, planning everything ahead, and then things developed gradually, and I'm still changing things. I'm still niching down. You need to relax and let things happen. And also the students guide you along the process.
And was there something specific about what you were doing? Because I remember you were working for schools, you were doing a lot of one-to-one, you were selling a lot of your time. Was there something about the traditional teaching path, working for a school, working for someone, that made you want to try this alternative path, this different path that you're in right now?
It was mostly the burnout of doing everything at the same time for a small income encouraged me to do something different. But there are still things in the traditional path that I enjoy. Like, for example, this idea of having my own business also allows me to have another fulfilling job at school, and I want to keep that. So I can choose to do that at the same time. But I've stopped teaching one-to-one lessons, for example. And now I only teach some groups that I choose. So that's an important choice, and that's something that is quite rewarding.
I want to go back to the self-doubt moments, because you mentioned that as you were going through this journey of working for yourself, building something of your own on your terms, and you probably encountered lots of moments and periods of times when you had to experience or you had to deal with self-doubt. What helped you during those moments? What kinds of strategies or tools that helped you deal with those moments where you felt like you just were not able to do this, that you couldn't do this? What helped you?
That's a tough one, believe it or not, because personally, it was learning not to stress so much about everything, letting go. Yeah, as I said it before, not trying to make the perfect course, but moving slowly with the students, learning from them, learning from what they needed, asking them for feedback. That is the key. So I started to relax, basically.
Really?
That is what helped me personally, because I guess that was my personal challenge.
It's funny because you say that. I don't remember where I read this, but I was talking to someone about this recently, that the more you work on a problem, the more you reduce the fear of it. Because it's hard for you to fear a problem when you're making progress on it. And it sounds like you were making even if the progress is imperfect, as you said, because we have this natural tendency to be perfectionists, even if the progress is imperfect or slow, but the action of working on something relieves a lot of anxiety. So I think the question that I have for you then is, what actions did you start taking that helped you progress with your business? What were like some of the initial steps that, if someone is listening to this and they're like, I'm dealing with the exact same thing that you're dealing with, what would you tell these people? What are some of these small steps, these small actions that you took that helped you relieve this anxiety and this self-doubt?
Yes, there were many, but the one that comes to my mind now is asking for feedback, as I said, from the students, and planning 1 week ahead only. Before, I had tried to plan like 2 months ahead for my 3-month club program. Now it's a kind of a speaking club. I'm still trying to find a name for that. but not planning in advance, too much in advance. Yeah, I said that now I'm starting to develop a kind of speaking club and trying to find a name for that, conversation group or something, because I needed a follow-up for that initial course that I taught twice. And you see that it is the students that dictate the path to take, because they wanted to continue. They wanted to keep meeting and keep having these conversations on methodology and the language. Yeah. It's just listening to them.
When you started your business, when you were transitioning from, you've mentioned that you were still working for schools, you're still teaching one-to-one. How did people around you reacted to your news of, you know what, I think I'm going to go down this path. I think I want to start my teaching business. Did people around you think you were crazy? Were they supportive from the start? What was that like for you in the beginning?
Yeah, in the beginning, definitely. But still now, it's something that I don't tell everyone.
Really?
I
Why
know.
not?
I tell this. Yeah. For example, colleagues, I know that many of them would not consider this path. And that's okay, because we don't all like the same things. Yeah, it's something that I still don't tell everyone, just the right people. And anyway, you find the right people to follow you and to support you, students. So they reach you anyway. But yeah, not everyone is going to be supportive of a choice like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And
People that are afraid of losing a stable income or losing a stable job, thinking about the pension. Most people are crazy about pension. What if I don't have a job at school? It's something impossible to grab. And that's okay for them. If it works for them, that's fine. It's good for us.
I've been talking to a lot of freelance teachers lately, as I do every day. And the one thing I keep hearing is how frustrating big platforms can be. We all know who they are. The low rates, the commissions, the algorithms, the lack of control. And in some cases, even having teachers work against each other. But working together, Abby, is how you and I met. And if you don't know, this is Abigail Fulbrook, the founder of weareenglishteachers.com. Abby, can you tell us what makes weareenglishteachers.com different?
Oh, yes, of course. I designed We Are English Teachers for independent teachers who want to find students in their own way. So learners come to the site, they can search for teachers or courses and contact the teachers directly for free. There's no commission, there's no fee to contact the teachers. And the teachers, you can set your own prices, you manage your payments, you manage your calendar, and you keep every dollar that you earn.
I love that. It's really about taking back control of your teaching and of your own business.
That's it, exactly. And it's a membership as well as being a member and being listed in the directory. You get access to our community. It's called Elevate, and that has workshops, accountability, it has meetups and support from other independent teachers. So you get to meet people who are growing real businesses as well.
Incredible. I love this so much. So if you're listening and you're an independent teacher and you want to move away from those platforms that we mentioned, you want to get help finding, securing, and keeping your next English students and clients, go to the website weareenglishteachers.com and join Elevate today. That's weareenglishteachers.com. Abby, thank you for this.
Thank you.
I want to talk more about your business and what you're doing now. But before I jump into that, I would like to know more about the impetus. Why did you decide to go from a teacher working for a school with a stable job, stable income, stable pension, to running your own teaching business? How did you get to that point? What was your journey into entrepreneurship like? Maybe walk us through that.
Yeah, I need to think a lot about that one. Because I don't think there was a moment when I made a decision and I wanted to completely transition into entrepreneurship. As I said before, the good thing about this is that it still allows me to have another fulfilling position at school and go for the challenges in that direction. One thing I enjoy is the relaxed approach that I have now, the fact that I can keep the best of both worlds. I can have this business and at the same time continue doing what I like on the other world, that is teaching at schools. I still enjoy that. So I'm not leaving.
And you
it
haven't
for the
given
time
up.
being.
And it sounds like you haven't given that up. You're able to maintain both,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
Which is interesting, Mariella, because a lot of teachers are under the impression that they have to give up one in order to pursue the other.
Exactly. Yes. And that's the fear. But it's not necessarily like that. Yes.
Interesting.
And I've also dived into public speaking, for example. I enjoyed that. And I thought that was also a part of the process to become better known. One of my main programs was aimed at teachers. So that's something that I felt I had to do. I took part in different congresses for teachers of English as a foreign language. Yeah, I've enjoyed many different things. And this has given me the freedom to do that, the freedom in time. And
First, backtrack to, you've mentioned the challenges that you had to face when you decided to pursue this entrepreneurial path. What obstacles did you face? What were some of the challenges that you faced at first? I know self-doubt was one of them. I'm pretty sure you've also touched on perfectionism. But what were some of the biggest challenges for you when you started this?
There was also something tiny, that is the technical aspects of this. I had to learn a lot. I was happy to learn a lot because I love learning.
Right.
So, not complain. But I had to learn many things, from creating my own website. I wanted to do everything myself. Learning how to, the website, it was create a mailing list, also many technical things that I never dreamt of doing. Really. But I'm happy that I was able to quite satisfied with that.
Right. And how did you overcome that? How did you learn about these things, and how do they help you with setting up your business in general terms?
I took all the modules from Learn Your English. That's what I did, of course.
I hope they were
I was
helpful.
following them one by one, of course, in the right order. Yes. Yeah, I did everything and I followed all the steps. The videos were so clear. Yeah.
Let's look at your business today. Like actually, walk me through the business now. Because I remember you were like, what did you sell first? How did you find your first customer or client? Like, I'm interested in that. What was the first, you're like, oh, somebody's interested in this. This is amazing. What was it like?
Yeah.
Who was it? What did you sell? I think it's an interesting.
Yeah, I started contacting previous students, former students.
Yeah.
And many of them were quite interested. Then only some were able to join the course, the first course. That one was English for Teachers. And it was aimed at teachers of English as a foreign language living mostly in Argentina, but there have always been teachers from other parts of the world. And that's what makes it interesting, really, because teachers have this opportunity to use their English in a natural way, and they needed to communicate. So that was the first course. And then my business developed into adding a second course for speakers of English in general, people who were able to speak English, but were not satisfied with their fluency or simply needed a safe place to practice. Definitely my first students came from previous times, different places where I had met them. That's when I started to contact them. But then I promoted a lot. I have been promoting my work on mostly Instagram and also LinkedIn.
Right.
Yeah. Some of them have come from there. And from courses, development courses that I've attended, and I've met people.
That's nice. That's nice. And if we were to look back now, because this was a couple of years ago, but looking back, would you offer the same thing again? Or would you, if you were to start again, if you could go back and start again, would you start with something different?
I guess it was the right option at the right time, because I started with teachers because that had been my most recent experience. I had been teaching at teacher training college for about 14 years. So that was my safe space. But nowadays, I'm open to teaching anyone, not anyone. It's women now. I have niched.
So you have a clear niche now.
Life has changed a lot, really. But people who need to become more fluent. So at the beginning, it was also all the skills. I wanted to cover all the topics. And now it's only speaking in a well-being context. So we use well-being topics to teach, basically. Some topic-based syllabus.
Interesting. And Mariella, you've mentioned that it has been quite the journey for you. And you were saying like when you started, you were just working with teachers and you contacted a lot of them and some of them showed interest and then eventually they signed up. But what I'm really interested in is I'm always interested in how basically the first sale. I feel like every time a teacher sells and the first person buys it from you, it's always like a really good feeling. I'm not going to ask you about the person's name or any specific information, but I'm more interested in the feeling. What surprised you most about that first sale? Was it the process, or about yourself? What, when you go back and you remember that first person who believed in you, because then we're going back to what you said, I believe that I didn't have that belief. I had a lot of self-doubt. When you made that first sale, what surprised you the most about that? Was it the process or maybe something about yourself, or what was it?
Yeah, I don't remember the person because I remember there was a group of people interested. What surprised me was the fact that people were interested in what I was creating, still creating. I was amazed at that, really. I go, there's interest, really. Yeah, it was that, definitely.
Really, eh? And when you mentioned the niche, you said you started working with teachers and that eventually has evolved into now you're also working with learners.
Exactly.
So
yes.
Walk me through this whole niche journey, because I feel like you've gone back and forth with that. And I feel like a lot of teachers could learn from that because your niche has evolved and it has changed over time since you first started your teaching business, correct?
Yeah, I simply had to leave the mental structure aside and be open to the changes that the students were suggesting, what they were asking for, what they felt comfortable with. And this is why I was working with women all the time. And they were feeling very confident, really supported in that environment where there's a lot of confidence. I can't find any other words, but confidence and support. And so there's this fraternal feeling among them. So I wanted to keep it private, keep it like a secret. It's their secret. So it's only natural that I will, continue niching down in that sense.
And you've mentioned that you had to be open because it almost felt like your niche was trying to find you and you were still kind of resisting it a little bit. I think the question I have for you, and I think people would benefit from it, is what helped you in that specific period of time, to stay open? What did you do differently that allowed you to say, you know what, I'm going to embrace this as my new niche. And if this is what the market is asking me to do, I'm going to do it. What helped you evolve and eventually lean into that?
I guess I can describe it as being quite professional in the planning, sitting down, keeping a journal, recording the feedback, although it's private and the students know it. So going back to it, studying it, and learning from the students to see what was necessary and what needed to change.
When you mentioned this journal, what kind of journal was that? Were you journaling what the students were telling you? Were you journaling about yourself? What was that like?
A bit of everything, to be honest. Yes. It's a messy notebook where I write down all my thoughts about my teaching, about my experience with the students, what worked, what didn't, and also the feedback. I have everything here. And I know where it's an organized mess. So I know where everything is exactly. Yeah.
And I'm sure that throughout this long journey, which hasn't really ended, and I don't think it'll ever end if you continue this side of things, perhaps is the best way to describe it. I'm sure that there were a lot of mistakes that you've made along the way, but perhaps we could hone in on a mistake that you made perhaps in your first year transitioning into this. What was a mistake that maybe you made in that first year that taught you something that it's still very valuable to you today, and it still guides your decisions and in a way informs you whenever you're thinking about the next step with your business? Is there one that you could share with us?
Yeah, along this line of perfectionism, I was trying to include, as I said, every topic that I thought the students would need for their professional life or mostly their professional life, because I was working with teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to cover all those topics that I thought before talking to them that they would need. They liked the topics and they never complained, but I don't think that things work like that. I do it the other way around. Yes. And I progress with the planning slowly to know what they need this month is not the same thing they need next month. So the things will have changed. I need to be prepared for that. So I need to be open to change in that sense.
Okay.
So I stressed about including absolutely everything that they would need because I wanted them to be prepared. That was not
interesting. It's very interesting because I feel like that's something that a lot of teachers would make that kind of mistake of trying to include everything in their first offer, trying to give their learners, their clients, everything. But as you said, it doesn't really work. So what kind of advice would you have to someone who is starting their teaching business and who is afraid of making that same mistake that you made? What would you tell that person?
The same piece of advice that you guys give in the program in Learn Your English, that is, don't plan everything ahead, just go step by step and just launch your course. The thing is that I had to learn it the hard way.
What's
it
the
was
hard
not
way?
For me to hear that from you, I had to bang my head against the wall and learn it myself. But you said it from the beginning, just launch your course. But I always felt I was not ready. So I needed to add this and that. And I always needed something else.
That's funny. A lot of people say that. A lot of teachers that I talk to, and Andrew and I talk to, they always say, I'm not ready for this. And you weren't ready for it either. When did you realize?
But we will never be ready. That's the thing.
Exactly. That's the point. Yes. You were never going to be ready for it. Even though you were not ready for it, why did you decide to take the plunge?
One of the things is that you see out there that there are lots of people doing great things and they are not ready either.
Exactly.
They are less ready than I am. So why not? I should be ready. That's what I thought. Yeah.
So basically seeing people out there doing something, even though they're not ready, inspired you to actually be like, you know what? If they're not ready and they're doing it, then I should do it too.
And they're being quite successful at it, aren't they?
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about the turning point for you, because I'm sure there was a turning point for you when you're like, wow, I actually can do this. What changed in your business when things finally started to work for you? What was the biggest change?
Precisely. I started to think of the changes. Now, what can I change for next time? What can I make better? I never saw it as a finishing line, but I started to think, okay, next time, what can I improve? So it's quite encouraging, challenging. It's a nice feeling.
Do you think that when you think about that shift, that change, did it come more from perhaps strategy or perhaps your mindset? Because as you said, you were more open, you were journaling, you believed more in yourself, you were not stressing out as much. Was it that? Was it strategy? Was it mindset? Or was it both?
I think it was both, yes. And I think that first experience gave me the confidence to think, I can do it. I've been able to do it once, so I will just do it better next time. So, bit of both.
Huh. And if someone listening right now is still waiting for that turning point, and they're waiting, they've been doing this for 6 months, they've been doing this for a year, maybe a year and a half, and that turning point hasn't yet arrived, what would you tell them?
Just do it, because I'm sure you are ready. So I was ready, yes. You don't need all the flashy light around it. You just need a simple course and just do it, yes.
And it's funny, you're saying just do it, but in the beginning, you didn't believe you could.
I know.
And now you
It's
do.
contradictory.
And now you do, which is great. I think that kind of shows the transformative power that working for yourself, that building something that is yours on your own terms has on a person. Which leads me to this question. What is something that you believe now? So when you look at your current belief system, this is something that you believe about building a business as a teacher that you didn't believe in when you first started.
Something.
Sorry, I'm asking very difficult questions today.
Yeah. You are. I don't know. I don't want to be redundant. That's the thing. I feel I've said everything that we are capable of doing this. The belief that we've been doing this for a long time because we've been doing this for others, basically. That's what I found out. I've been doing great things for institutions and they got lost. I think because I don't know if anyone carried on with that kind of work.
Yeah.
So I can definitely do that for myself. I'm more than prepared. That's what I thought. That's a belief.
And I feel like you probably take a lot more pride and more enjoyment in doing those creative projects, those things for yourself, as opposed to giving all your ideas and all your energy to a project for a school that might actually enjoy it for a few months. And then they're like, great, thank you, bye.
Yeah, that's yours. Only yours.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. That's good.
I want to have a few more questions before we wrap it up. But I think one of the questions that I like asking teachers that we're interviewing in this series is that it's about shadowing. If someone were to shadow you for a week, Mariella, they were like with you Monday to, I don't know, I think you work Monday to Saturday, I'm going to guess. Working on your business, you work at least 5-6 days a week.
Yes.
Not everyone is a lunatic like me working every single day. Even though I'm taking a little bit of time off in the summer, I'm working a lot less this summer. But if someone were to follow you, or they were to shadow you for a week,
Yeah.
paying attention to your business, what would they be surprised by? What would they learn about your business? What would they learn about you? What would they be surprised by?
The fact that I'm doing all these things, people tend to tell me, you do so much. How do you handle it? How do you manage to do that? But my life is pretty relaxed. I mean, this, as I mentioned before, gives me the freedom to choose what I do, the time when I do it, the time when I plan. The content, for example, that's something that people think it's useless. Why do you devote so much time to creating content? It's part of the job.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the job to reach more people who may need the service. It's like that. Yeah, I think they would be surprised to find that I'm not stressing about minor things anymore.
That's good. I remember when we talked in the past, I remember you being very stressed out about things at first. And all the uncontrollables. And I was like, Mariella, one thing at a time. But it's great to see your evolution. It's great to see that you're operating not from a place of fear. I feel like you're definitely operating from a place where it's coming from your creative side. It's coming from your heart. It's coming from a good place. So you're not like, I'm doing this because I'm scared. I'm doing this because I'm passionate about this. I'm doing this because I believe in this. And I think that's beautiful. I think everyone who is listening to this, everyone who is a teacher and educator, I feel like they would definitely feel inspired by this. And before we wrap up, I want you to tell us a little bit more about your business. How would you describe your business? What is it? Who do you help? What's the transformation that you help the clients with? Perhaps walk us a little bit through what you're currently doing with your teaching business.
I still find it difficult to describe because there's so much to it. It's so eclectic. I continue teaching teachers of English as a foreign language. More than teaching, it's guiding them in these conversations that we have every other Saturday. It's not an intensive program anymore. It's more of a conversation-driven approach to talk about methodology and teacher life while we continue improving our English in the process. So it's basically fluency that we work on, speaking fluency. And I also teach students in general, people who can speak English but feel they need more fluency and they need a safe space to practice. I take pride in offering safe spaces where people don't feel judged and they can make mistakes and we learn from those mistakes. I know that's what everybody says, but really we find a way to live through this in my groups. Really, people tell me, I'm surprised when students tell me that they come back because they feel supported, they feel that they are not judged, and they feel that it's their safe space in the week. So they need that conversation because, as I said before, it's based on well-being. They're looking forward to that space throughout the week. So
that's good.
Makes my day, really.
Yeah, that's actually really good.
Yeah.
And do you foresee your business evolving and changing with time, or do you feel like this is going to be locked in for a while now? If you could make any sort of predictions about your business, where do you see yourself today and where do you see yourself perhaps a year from now?
Okay. I don't know what changes will come, but there will be changes. I hope they lean towards the side of growth. I'm planning to continue studying because that's what I love. So I want to apply all that new knowledge to making my business grow, but I still don't know in what direction. But well, growth, changes growth.
It's funny. I was talking to a client earlier before our call, and one of the things we were talking about is he's also running a business. And there's a question that I asked him, which I'm probably going to ask you too, and you probably won't have an answer for it, but I think it's a good question for everyone who is in the initial stages of building their teaching business, which is a question that actually helps you think more clearly right now, which is what decision will still make sense for you a year from now? So what decision you could make today that will still make sense a year from now?
Is that a question for me?
You don't have to answer. I think it connects.
For your client. Yeah, to keep doing this. Definitely. Yeah. I have no idea. I'm so open to change. And I have no idea what will happen in a year. So I just want to continue this way. That's what I know right now.
Okay.
Let's see what the future brings.
Yeah. So the direction that you're going in is you are committed to going down in this direction, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like this, in a relaxed way.
Yes.
So that I can continue with my other job and I still enjoy it.
That's
just
good. That's
like
good.
This.
I am very envious of your work-life balance, which is something that I have been persevering through and I still somewhat struggle with, where I just take on too much and I do a bit too much and it affects me negatively. But that's a different podcast. That should be the burnout. That should be the burnout series podcast where I talk about how I deal with burnout very frequently.
Yeah. Anyway, don't be misled. I'm always working on it. It's never perfect. Yeah, don't be biased.
But the last question I have for you is actually a difficult one, and you might not have the answer for it, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
I want you to imagine that you lost everything, all your clients, everything, and you had to start your business, your teaching business from scratch tomorrow. What would your first 3 steps be? What would be the first 3 things you would do? In other words, what would you not waste your time on this time around?
Yes. I guess I would continue start promoting, because that will be starting from scratch. But because it's something I enjoy, so creating content, for example, I would contact previous students, former students, because I know that works. and there are people who support you and they're always interested in continuing studies with you. And I would just create a simple course, not the most thorough one ever.
A simple course.
That I would do first, and gradually add all the flashy lights, the website, the mailing list, and so on. But start small.
Start small. And it's funny because as we were going through all of this, I was reminded of a quote by the novelist and poet James Joyce. And we were talking a lot about mistakes throughout our conversation. And I feel like when I asked you that question about starting again, the mistakes that you have made, I was automatically transported into this quote by James Joyce. And he talks a lot about the value of our errors, the value of our blunders. And one of the things he said, which I think connects very nicely to what you were saying throughout this conversation that we had, which is the mistakes are the portals of discovery. And I feel like you've only discovered so much about yourself. You've only discovered so much about what you are capable of doing because you were making mistakes along the way.
Yeah, this is something that we tell students all the time. Let's take your mistakes and don't feel overwhelmed by them. Let's take them and improve from there. But sometimes as teachers and then as entrepreneurs, we find it difficult to follow our words, to do what we say.
Yeah, that's very true.
Oh.
Which is a question that I would like to end this podcast, our session today, our conversation today, with a question. And it's, again, I don't expect you to answer this question, but it's more a question for you, Mariella, to ponder, and for everyone listening to ponder. Because as you said, Mariella, and I want to go back to the beginning of our conversation, you said you had a lot of moments of self-doubt.
Yeah.
You had a lot of moments where you just didn't believe that you could do what you were actually doing right now, which is a beautiful thing because it means you have overcome those self-limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And I think a question that I would like to leave everyone with is to think about that belief. Which belief you had once in your life back in the day that protected you, but now confines you?
Yeah, I've thought about that one. It's a tough one, but I've thought about that one many times. Yes, because I've been talking to old friends, for example, and saying, did you ever imagine that I would be speaking to public audiences like this or creating content? Because I was the shy kid at school. Of all the kids at school, I was the least that anyone would have expected to do this. And here I am doing that, promoting my services, talking to the world, also sharing my ideas on teaching and on how to learn English. So, I'm quite proud of that change.
No, you should be. I think you should definitely be, because you have come a long way. And as you said, like, I feel like a lot of these beliefs, they are very helpful for us at certain stages in our lives, because they protected us. They protected us. But then as you grow, as you evolve as a human being, you come to the realization that they eventually start confining you. And you have to find a way to just break through them so you can actually get to the next stage, the next level. Mariella, I wanted to first of all thank you for doing this. I know we have connected in the past and we worked together and it was a pleasure. So having this conversation with you, seeing you in growing and running your business, all of that gives me it makes my heart really warm. It makes me very happy to see that you have overcome yourself. You have overcome those beliefs that once protected you. And now it's just, honestly, to me, that's the most beautiful transformation I see happening with a lot of teachers who were doing all this work for others when they could be putting all that work into themselves. So
yes, I only have to thank you and the guys and learn your English, because you've been great great tutors, as I've always said, in this transformation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mariella. And thank everyone for listening. And don't forget to tune into the Teacher Talking Time podcast. And this is our Teacherpreneur series, and we're going to be continuing this with other teachers. And I really hope that you find the value and the lessons that will perhaps eventually help you break through those beliefs that once protected you but now confine you. So thank you for listening.